and that is certainly because of this chase. You see the driver is able to move and weave and through all these cars. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a lot of cars right now on the ground, and that's all because, the CHP is just up ahead of us, and people are, heeding to the officers' lights and sirens right now.
Jonathan, did you at any point drive by this driver?
Not at all, no. Unfortunately, we hopped on just as it was passing the area, but that's when we saw, as Julia was referencing, the LAPD chopper finally come into view. Initially, all we saw were the news choppers. We saw our news chopper 4 flying overhead. That was the first chopper I saw. And then you started seeing an LAPD chopper flying at high speeds to try to catch up to the chase and finally get overhead.
What about ground units? Any past you or any lights and sirens?
We did, yeah. We saw CHP SUVs, some ground, typical ground units. We also saw one motor officer using the shoulder just like the chase suspect was using to try to get away from units on the ground. So it was interesting that they're using the same tactic as the person who is leading this chase right now to try to catch up.
What's interesting, Jonathan, is that while you were talking, we believe we saw this white SUV sideswipe somebody else's mirror. So it has already hit 2 vehicles and now sideswiped a mirror from another car. So again, this is a dangerous situation for anybody who's on the road right now. And you've got to wonder, when will they pull out?
You guys, I can't stress enough, there's always traffic at this time, especially in these areas near downtown on the 10 freeway. You would think at around noon, 12:30 on any given day, there's not a lot of traffic. That is certainly not the case. That's why this person continues to use the shoulder as I'm watching along with you in a very dangerous manner. I did think we would see that white vehicle that the driver crashed into from behind. We did not see that vehicle, unfortunately, but hopefully they're doing okay. But yeah, this thing needs to come to an end. And, they're just going to only hit more traffic as the chase progresses.
And can you imagine what that driver was thinking? The person who is being pursued here had an option to go to the right, to choose another lane, but then just bumped into that car. That's 3 so far, as you were saying, 1 mirror off. You have to imagine, yeah, they're going to stop and think someone just hit me, a little fender bender, but no, it just takes off and you see CHP behind them. Jonathan, we're seeing right now, I don't know if you're watching along with us. I think you are now. It's pretty trafficy right now, and that's when the driver gets even more desperate.
Absolutely. And, the shoulder tends to come and go depending on where it is. Here, where we are, the chase was maybe in this area 5 minutes ago where we're driving now in the Boyle Heights area. The shoulder tends to end in certain spots, and that's why you saw that driver being forced to move away from the middle divider there, and that's when those crashes were happening. And so, we're just hoping that this all comes to an end, and we're getting on the 10 freeway now. We're transitioning onto the 10 East, so hopefully we can catch it. They're just ahead of us, maybe 2 to 3 miles.
All right, and you are seeing on your screen a split screen there. You see it there. That was the first car that we saw that this SUV hit. So that SUV, you saw 2 white SUVs there. And then a few minutes later, it hit another car. So again, it's a dangerous situation. This driver is just weaving in and out of these traffic lanes, mainly driving on that shoulder whenever. Jonathan, you mentioned that the shoulder comes and goes here, but you clearly see it has been taking advantage of the shoulder whenever it is available. But again, I've been noticing that it's been bouncing quite a bit, and I don't know if if the driver's tire is messed up, has a punctured tire there, but we're closely monitoring it. Of course, we also see those tinted windows, so we still can't confirm if there's only one person inside that car or if there's somebody else in there.
Yeah, right now we see it on the 10. Right now we just passed Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's slowing down right now. And this is unusual for us to see the driver sort of just staying behind traffic.
You see those units passing by it.
Yeah, now making a lane change here, and we'll see if they decide what they decide to do. We have an airship above monitoring this. This is one of the few times we've been able to kind of see into the window. Some of the back windows very tinted, so we're not able to see what's in there. But we know it's robbery suspects that are being pursued right now, so authorities are going to want to be extra careful.
You got to wonder, will officers stop traffic at some point? Just try to hold back this driver and see what happens, because again, this is a dangerous situation. This driver has been driving really fast, but look at this, what's going on here.
Yeah, so someone is changing lanes and blocking that driver right now as they widen out from Julia's shot to get a look at what's going on through traffic. There we are on the vehicle right now, and what we have seen so far, Annabelle and Jonathan, 3 little accidents where this driver has just been so desperate that they have hit the back of cars, and one car was sideswiped. So a lot of damage out here, high speeds, very dangerous to the public, and the CHP and the LAPD overhead wanting to get this to an end.
All right, Julia Dang, are you with us?
Yeah, and I'm back with you now. This is still westbound on the 10, and yeah, as Jonathan was talking, we saw this SUV sideswipe yet another vehicle. If I recall, it was that dark-colored pickup truck, and I'm getting some more information now. No confirmation yet, but I'm hearing chatter that CHP might have spotted a rifle, a weapon inside of this vehicle. So we've been trying to get a clearer shot. We have not seen any passengers, haven't heard anything about additional occupants. For now, it's just the driver we know who's wanted for burglary, and then I'm hearing this male driver might have something on his face, possibly a hoodie, possibly some kind of mask, but the back windows of this SUV are darkly tinted. We can't see anything. We just see his arm right now. You can see it's visible through that driver's side window, but yeah, multiple accidents already, and this driver has made no moves to pull over. CHP was talking about running a traffic brake when this was still southbound on the 5. I haven't heard additional chatter about that now that it's westbound on the 10. We're crossing through the West Adams area right now, and there is pretty significant traffic up ahead. It's definitely more jammed on the 10 than it was on the southbound 5, so they may not need to run a traffic brake. Something is going to happen where either this driver runs out of fuel or he comes up on such heavy traffic he has no choice but to come to a stop or exit. And look at that speedometer in the bottom left-hand corner of our screen. This is down to about 70 miles per hour now. I mean, freeway speeds, but nothing compared to what this driver was doing before, about 100 miles per hour when we were following this down the 5 freeway.
And Julie, you mentioned that there was some chatter about a rifle being in the vehicle.
That's right. CHP believes this burglary suspect they've been pursuing since it was coming down the 5 in Magic Mountain might have some kind of weapon. No confirmation yet, but that is the chatter that we've been hearing on the CHP scanner.
All right, Julia, thank you. We're going to check in with Jonathan Gonzalez. He is there in traffic, happened to be covering another story in the Griffith Park area, and then saw this pursuit, got on the road with his photographer, Jorge Diaz, and they were pretty close behind this pursuit at one time. Jonathan, where are you now?
We are now on the 10 westbound. We initially were on the 10. We're heading toward the 10 eastbound. We realized that the 10 westbound is where this driver is and still driving there on the shoulder. We do see some CHP units at several different exits. And we do see traffic starting to build up ahead of us again, likely because the chase is just a couple miles away. I would say we're in the downtown area, coming up near USC, approaching the San Pedro Street exit. And I see that the driver at last check is in the West Adams area. So, again, maybe just 2 to 3 miles behind. Don't think we're going to catch it as this driver continues at high speeds, but they're only going to hit more and more traffic as we approach the 405. And so we're going to try our best to see how close we can get to this chase, obviously in a safe manner. And you know, by that time, Kathy and Annabelle, hopefully this has come to an end. This is a very dangerous situation. As you mentioned, Kathy, earlier, so many people on the freeway, they don't even know what's coming. And the drivers who've been hit by this driver, they quite literally don't even know what hit them. They're hit. They're trying to figure out if they're okay, if their car's okay, and this driver is gone. And that's what makes this so dangerous. That's what makes this such a precarious situation, how quickly this person, with no regard for others on the road, thankfully, though, you can still see those CHP units there on the ground right behind him.
Jonathan, and I was just going to ask you whether or not, I mean, just from your advantage point there and driving with everybody else, if there's any indication. I mean, you know that there's a pursuit, but does anybody else know? I mean, do they see the CHP behind it? Do they see the helicopters? You know, that's a big question for so many.
You know, that's a great point. No, as far as if you look around, you would think everything is normal. And if I didn't know this chase was happening, I would probably think there's a chase just up ahead of us. You had no idea. People are, you know, we're going maybe 40 to 50 miles an hour at the fastest because there's just general normal traffic for the day. So, no, and I think when a chase is coming up, and this has happened to me long before I was a reporter, when a chase comes at you, it happened to me on the 110, you have no concept of what is happening. all of a sudden you see this car fly by you, and then you see several units fly past you, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's out of your vantage point. And so that's what makes it so dangerous in these situations, because you don't even have time to react in certain moments. Now, every now and then you will see a driver try to block the driver. We never want to get involved in a chase. Officers stress that all the time, but if you're just driving, this is why you got to be on alert at all times. Someone could be just zooming up behind you, and that could be a chase.
And Jonathan, you were on the NBC LA app. You could see what's going on. You were on this so quickly, you said you actually saw the police helicopter arriving to do surveillance.
Yeah, so we initially heard, I got out of the van because we knew it was approaching the Griffith Park area. That's where we were doing our story. And we heard News Chopper 4. I looked up. I could identify it right away. And News Chopper 4 and Julia, they were right overhead. And all of a sudden, from seemingly out of nowhere, at a very low altitude, we saw the LAPD chopper approaching the chase. It was not over it at that point. It was certainly trying to catch up. And that's when we realized, oh, here it is. It's arrived. It got here before we knew it. We hopped on the freeway right there by the zoo, and we've been following it ever since.
All right, and you see that split screen there moments ago. You see that side swipe coming up right there. You see it. So that was the most recent incident that we saw involving this SUV. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at that left front tire. It looks really low to me, and I don't know if it's a flat tire.
Oh, it's very low. It looks flat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That left side in the front is flat, and that's what Julia was talking about. She was pointing out she thought it was something to do with the front. Annabelle, you said it seemed bouncy. There it goes, and I thought it looked a little fishtaily, so definitely having some maneuverability issues now, and that absolutely looks flat. However, we have seen vehicles continue on flat tires before, and so that does not mean this is over just yet.
No, and you've got to wonder, at what point will this driver just pull over and give himself up? Again, we don't know how many people are inside this vehicle. We do know that there's at least one person, and we've been hearing chatter, according to Julia Dang, just a chatter that she's been hearing from officers, that there was a rifle, that this person could have a rifle in that vehicle. So we're trying to get more information. Our team is definitely trying to gather some more information.
Yeah, we also understand this may be linked to something that happened in Bakersfield, so we do have calls in to find out what that's all about. We do know robbery suspects. We know this was supposedly a traffic stop. Car took off, and that happened earlier around 12 o'clock. Let's check in with Jonathan Gonzalez again. He has been behind this pursuit. He was covering a different story, but then heard about this and got right on it. Jonathan.
Yeah, so as I'm watching along with you, we do see that left front tire, the driver's side tire, now flat. You can only imagine how much more difficult that makes it for the driver to maneuver that large vehicle. And you're hoping that that's a sign that this is maybe starting to wrap up here. I'll let you guys. What are you guys seeing?
We're seeing the tire, parts of the tire just literally fall off. The wheels are coming off right now, and he's pulling over to the side.
Yeah, tire is shredded. This pursuit, I think, is finally coming to an end. You saw that front tire, the one that we zoomed in on. I just put the doubler on this a couple minutes ago because we were talking about how it looked flat, and you can see now it is completely shredded, and this driver is now pulled over on the side of the 10 West. I'm going to zoom out, and we should see CHP ground units coming up on this now. Yeah, this pursuit is over. This driver could not continue driving like that, but just moments before the tire rolled off the car, he was still traveling about 40, 50 miles per hour west on the 10.
Pretty dangerous at those speeds when you have that tire situation. Now, Julia, we're seeing the CHP in position. These are the vehicles that have been following. So now what they're going to do is make contact. I see an arm out the side of the window, and looks like they're going to open the door.
Yeah, they've got this driver at gunpoint. You saw that arm. You see this driver now complying, getting out of this SUV after quite a lengthy pursuit that we heard when it was in Santa Clarita. It was southbound on the 5 and then westbound on the 10. We're now in the Culver City area.
All right, we're having some trouble there, some connection with Julia Dang, but we're using Julia's audio. Julia, you're back with us?
Hey, Annabelle, back with you. You can see this driver giving it up, backing up towards CHP now. Massive police response here on the westbound side of the 10. This is in Culver City, just east of Overland.
And we had heard robbery suspects, so they're going to want to, as they do anyway, search that vehicle and give the all clear, correct?
Absolutely. That's what officers are going to do now, now that they have the driver safely in custody. That this is going to be a full freeway break here. And let me zoom back in on the white SUV, this pursuit vehicle. I don't see additional movement in it. I don't see the passenger side door opening. But you see this CHP officer coming up, guns drawn. And they're absolutely going to check this vehicle now and make sure there's nobody else inside and check it for weapons.
We also want to bring in our Jonathan Gonzalez, who has been following this chase from the ground. Jonathan, what are you experiencing from the car?
Well, the backing up is now, the backup rather from the traffic from the end of this pursuit is now hitting us. We're approaching Crenshaw, so we're about 3 to 4 miles from Overland, which is just before the 405 and 10 freeway interchange there. So we will be approaching this in the next few minutes. The question is how close we can get, because we're going to be stuck behind the fact that this chase stopped. There are multiple units there on the ground. The freeway is shut down on the westbound side right now where we are headed. So we're starting to see the brake lights that slow down. We're now going maybe 25, 30 miles per hour at most, and we're going to be stuck behind some traffic just behind this chase. But thankfully, this has come to a stop. And as you know, people, you mentioned, Annabelle, people may not even realize this is happening, and suddenly you're stuck behind 5, 6 CHP units with their guns drawn, trying to take someone into custody, and that's always a frightening situation. In many ways, yes, it's another day in LA, because chases tend to happen so often here, but it's never any less scary when you're seeing it in person like this for the first time.
No, and it's quite the response here today, Jonathan. They gave the all clear for the vehicle, so it looks like there was only one person after all. So hopefully they'll be able to get this clear. They'll be able to get those people on the way. Right now we're seeing them take that person into custody, and we'll find out, I'm sure, from officers later on exactly what all the details were in this that started just about over an hour ago. Magic Mountain and Newton Division tried to pull this person over. The chase began, and Annabelle, we saw speeds up to 100 miles per hour through traffic at the noon hour.
Yeah, that's right. And so we've been monitoring the situation, but look at that backup. This is some bad news for all of these drivers who are just trying to get to their destination. Again, this is the 10 freeway. Am I mistaken here? Am I correct?
This is the 10 freeway. I'm panning the camera east right now. This is going to be on the westbound side of the 10 at Overland, and traffic is backed up now for miles because they've got the westbound side completely shut down for the termination of this pursuit. If you want to get around it, your best bet is probably going to be Venice Boulevard. You can see cars exiting there, but I'm panning back west, back to where this pursuit has come to an end. And yes, it was just the driver in that white SUV. They checked it. They gave the all clear, no passengers, and you can see that driver wearing the white T-shirt being put in the back of a squad car here.
Julia, I counted about 9 units behind this car.
Yeah, 9 units, and then you've got that motorcycle pulling up, and then don't forget about the LAPD helicopter overhead that Jonathan spotted, and big thanks to Jonathan for helping out with our coverage from the ground. I can't remember the last time we had one of our NBC News vans on the ground behind a pursuit as News Chopper 4 was flying over it, but this is going to be the traffic that he's sitting in now if he is westbound on the 10 freeway, and for this to be happening in the afternoon, I mean, this is just not ideal. So again, this was southbound on the 5 before going through the East LA interchange, and then west on the 10, and it has finally come to a stop here in Culver City.